When it comes to Nintendo, Pokemon is the second most profitable and popular franchise at their disposal. With around 294 million copies sold across the franchise, Pikachu might be the most recognizable mouse in the world, maybe even above Mickey Mouse himself. And with every massive franchise comes those who try to follow in their footsteps, picking up the scraps left behind. So today, in honor of the upcoming Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, we'll be taking a look at 10 completely shameless Pokemon knockoffs.
Monster Rancher. Our first entry today actually has quite the fan following, so it looks like this ripoff achieved what it set out to do, at least capture a percentage of that Pokemon hype. Monster Rancher, also known as Monster Farm in Japan, started out as a series of life simulation RPGs made by Koei Tecmo. So far, the series has seen 17 releases since its initial release on the PlayStation in 1997, created almost a year and a half after the debut of Pokemon Red and Green in Japan. While the series is often compared to Pokemon due to the nature of collecting a bunch of unique-looking fantasy creatures, the two series have very different gameplay. While Pokemon is known for its more traditional role-playing game battles and tropes, Monster Rancher is instead more of an animal breeding simulator, where the player must raise a monster throughout its entire life until it's able to fight in tournaments. Throughout its life, you must feed it, care for it, and create exercise schedules until it either retires from tournaments or dies of old age. In a sense, it's more of a fully realized Tamagotchi, with an emphasis placed on fighting. One of the major appeals to this series is the method certain monsters can be unlocked. Monster Rancher 1, 2, 3, 4, and Evo utilize a feature that reads any disc inserted in the system, leading to a new monster being unlocked. The characteristics of the monster are determined by the numbers present in the disc's code. Some actually unlock completely unique monsters, such as a Harry Potter DVD containing an owl-type monster in Monster Rancher 4. Other systems had to revise the unlock method, such as the DS entries requiring the player to speak into the microphone or insert a Game Boy Advance cartridge into the second slot. In addition to the video games, an anime was produced that lasted 2 seasons. It aired in America on Fox Kids and can now be viewed on Hulu.
EvoCreo. Our next entry follows the Pokemon formula a bit more closely, with the main focus being on monster collecting and battling other collectors with said monsters. EvoCreo was released on Android and iOS devices in 2015 and takes place in the world of Zenith, which is inhabited by creatures named Creos. The game is described as having similar mechanics to Pokemon, but with much deeper gameplay and extensive monster customization. The game was successfully funded on Kickstarter back in 2013. Many backers asked him how this game would be different from Pokemon, to which the creator responded that there were many aspects of Pokemon where he thought he could improve upon, rather than just criticizing them. The biggest change, of course, being the battle system. Added to the game are different tiered moves, rechargeable moves, boons, and traits. Despite all its changes, the game is still kinda similar to Pokemon, both visually and mechanically. It does seem to have its fans, as evidenced by the successful Kickstarter, so maybe there's more here than meets the eye.
Robopon. Once Nintendo struck gold with their monster collecting smash hit, it seemed every major video game publisher tried to take a swing at it. In 1998, Hudson Soft, known for their work with Bomberman and the TurboGrafx 16, created their own Pokemon clone in the form of Robopon, Sun, Star, and Moon versions for Game Boy Color. Right off the bat, the similarities should be obvious, right there in the title. The use of various versions, something that was popularized by the Pokemon series, is upfront right and center. This is a way to maximize profits, as there are many die-hard fans that will buy every version of a game, no matter how small the differences are. Unfortunately, this didn't prove to be as successful for Robopon as it was for Pokemon. Despite that, a few sequels were made for the N64 and Game Boy Advance, although the series has remained dormant since. The Game Boy follows a boy named Cody, who inherits a Robopon dispatching company from his grandfather. He then travels around the island collecting Robopon and battling against the Legend 7, which is pretty much just the gym leaders from Pokemon. Different moves and battle effects took the form of software, which could be installed to your Robopon. Interestingly, the cartridges had an infrared panel on the top edge that allowed them to transfer information using waves like a TV remote. For example, pointing a remote control at the cartridge and pressing a button might have an effect in-game, like boosting your Robopon's stats or unlocking a treasure chest. Despite that admittedly cool feature, the game received average reviews and was immediately labeled as a Pokemon clone. Hudson Soft was acquired by Konami in 2012, meaning the rights to the franchise belong to them now. Knowing how Konami is even with their most popular franchises as of late, there's very little chance we'll see anything out of this not so popular one anytime soon. Interestingly, Robopon actually beat Pokemon to the punch with using Sun and Moon as its version titles, so they have that going for them, I guess.
Dragon Warrior Monsters. Dragon Quest, also known as Dragon Warrior in Japan, is an incredibly popular and iconic JRPG series in Japan that unfortunately has never met the same level of popularity in Western territories. Perhaps in an attempt to make the series more enticing to the West, a spin-off series that was kinda similar to Pokemon was made, titled Dragon Warrior Monsters, which would go on to create the Dragon Quest Monsters subseries. Despite being released in the West, the game retains the Japanese Warrior title as opposed to the Quest title. Tasked with saving his sister, Terry forms a team of monsters to help him fight in his battles, recruiting them with meat and having them breed to create newer, stronger monsters. At the time, many critics praised the breeding aspect of the game, as it offered quite a bit of depth when compared to Pokemon and other monster collecting genre games. It did very well in both Japan and North America, and went on to start the aforementioned spin-off series. In 2011, a remake was announced for the 3DS, and included many new features, monsters, and updated graphics. Still, while initially a Pokemon clone, the series has gone on to become its own uniquely successful beast.
Demi-Kids. With our next entry, we have yet another massively popular franchise that has tried its hand at the monster collecting genre. Persona, or to be more precise, Shin Megami Tensei, the series in which Persona spun off from. Developed by Atlus, the series usually takes place in a modern urban area, usually Tokyo, with post-apocalyptic themes and demons making their way into the area to disrupt things. The games are usually rather serious and unsettling, which makes their Pokemon-esque spin-off Shin Megami Tensei Devil Children stand out. Also known as Demi-Kids, the spin-off has a much brighter and cuter art style to fit the Pokemon mold. The game follows a group of demon-human hybrids called Devil Children as they travel between the human and demon world, befriending demons to fight for them in battles. Similar to Pokemon, the games were released in pairs, with each version having different obtainable demons and characters. Demons are not caught by battling, but rather by talking it out and befriending them, with the demon joining the player by random chance. Atlus has actually went on record stating that the Devil Children series was created as a response to Pokemon, in addition to also creating a Shin Megami Tensei game for much younger children to be able to enjoy. The series was never released in America other than the Game Boy Advance versions, titled Demi-Kids Light Version and Dark Version. The series has received a number of mixed reviews ranging from negative to positive. It appears to be dormant now, with the only recent release being a 2011 Japanese exclusive mobile game.
Pokemon Stadium. What is this? A Pokemon game on a Pokemon Knockoffs list? Despite sharing a name with an official Pokemon game for the N64, this version of Pokemon Stadium is anything but official. Knockoff Pokemon Stadium is an unlicensed bootleg game for the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo systems, made by an unknown developer. Interestingly, much like the official Pokemon games, the two console versions feature exclusive Pokemon that are not available in the other version. The Super Nintendo version features one-on-one battles, where the Pokemon must charge in order to attack. The fighting roster consists of 15 classic Pokemon with unrecognizable names, such as Kames for Blastoise and Dolgas for Coughing. In addition to being a shameless Pokemon knockoff, multiple music tracks have been ripped from Mega Man X3, Super Blaster Bros, and Virtua Fighter 2. The Sega Genesis version actually manages to be worse than its Super Nintendo counterpart, despite looking somewhat better. For instance, the arcade mode does not work properly and takes the player back to the title screen after the first match. All the button combinations have been swapped, and whenever one Pokemon attacks, both of their charge meters will be reset. Overall, this game is just a huge mess.
Little Masters. Most of the previous games on this list at least changed up the gameplay or art style a bit to set itself apart from Pokemon, despite being created in an effort to cash in on its popularity. Our next entry does not do those things. Little Masters is an iOS game developed by Rita in 2012. In this game, you set out to catch wild monsters, train them, battle them, and evolve them. You can even hatch them from eggs and create complex strategies by looking at the many different type advantages, such as fire against grass, grass against water, and water against fire. Sound innovative? No? That's because it's not. Little Masters brings absolutely nothing new to the table other than microtransactions. The art style is rather nice, but that's because it too is imitating Pokemon, specifically Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire's art style. As of now, Little Masters has been removed from the App Store. It's unknown why, but one can only assume that it's because of its blatant similarities to Pokemon. While everything about this game screams unoriginal, some of the monster concepts are actually kind of appealing. Mumba and Owlage are particular standouts.
Lia Dian Huang Bi Ka Kui Chuan Xiao shit. Our next entry is a Chinese bootleg of Pokemon Yellow for the NES, developed by Shenzhen Najing Technology. The company has a long history of creating bootleg Pokemon games, from Pokemon Blue, Gold, Diamond, as well as countless other hacks based on series like Final Fantasy and Harvest Moon. Established in 2002, they are one of two NES pirate developers known to still exist, the other being the company Waizang. I'm pretty sure I mispronounced that horribly. The Pokemon Yellow bootleg itself seems to be a port of Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, mixed in with the story and mechanics of Pokemon Yellow. All of the TMs and HMs from Pokemon Leaf Green and Fire Red are all here, as well as legendary Pokemon from later entries in the series. The game itself is a weird Frankenstein's monster when it comes to graphics, using sprites from Pokemon Gold, Silver, Ruby, Sapphire, as well as Harvest Moon, Friends of Mineral Town. Despite being just another Shameless knockoff, the game is considered to be one of the more higher quality ripoffs from this company, and even goes out of its way to provide options to the player that could have easily been left out. For instance, since trading is pretty much impossible, all Pokemon that could only evolve through trading now evolve at level 40, which is a little nice. If you're interested in giving this bootleg a try, but you don't know any Chinese, then fear not. RomHacking.net user Lugia2009 has got you covered, with an almost 100% English translation available.
Telefang. Once again, we have another well-known company taking a crack at the Pokemon formula, this time with Natsume, known for the work on the Harvest Moon series. Their game is called Telefang and was released exclusively in Japan back in 2002 versions, Power version and Speed version. What sets Telefang apart from the other monster collecting games is that monsters are contacted through something called the D-Shot, which is clearly a cell phone. This game is essentially just taking whatever was popular in 2000 and throwing it in a blender. Pokemon and cell phones? Yeah, sure, why not? The story begins with a boy named Shigeki playing baseball with his friends. The ball gets away from him and he chases after it, finding it at the base of a tree with a strange old man staring at it. Suddenly, he gets a weird phone call from the monster's world and falls into the tree after a random earthquake. Things don't make much more sense after that. Since the games were never released outside of Japan, most English-speaking gamers are only familiar with the Telefang series through the infamous Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Jade bootleg meme. The bootleg is known for its horrendous and inconsistent translation, game-breaking bugs, and hilarious glitches. While the meme probably didn't do the Telefang series any favors, it definitely got the game recognized by a large group of people who would probably never see it otherwise. So there's that, I guess.
Chinese Pokemon Go. Our final knockoff today is based upon the most recent Pokemon-related phenomenon, Pokemon Go. Since most Nintendo products never make their way to China, they often have to get pretty creative with their bootlegs, usually altering the original game in some way, as we saw with the Pokemon Yellow bootleg. However, in the case of Pokemon Go, the app was outright banned in China due to potential security and safety risks. Now, Pokemon Go has seen its fair share of ripoffs, like Garfield Go and City Elves Go, but those are nothing compared to this horrifying thing. This app isn't actually a straight-up clone, as it doesn't include the real-world map tracking or anything. Instead, it's more of a training app to learn how to throw Pokeballs properly in the actual game. And the Pokemon in question they're training on certainly resemble Pokemon, but they all look horrendously deformed or malnourished. Just take a look at the Snorlax. It looks like it's staring deep into your soul. Charmander looks angry, Squirtle looks like a small bald man, and Pikachu seems to have become a grotesque mouse-rabbit hybrid. Apparently, the app has been updated to make the Pokemon look a little bit less unsettling, but unfortunately the damage has been done. We've already seen Snorlax, and he's already seen what this game has done to our souls.